Hello, I welcome you all in the lecture series of cognitive ergonomic. Today's lecture will be on usability testing and user experience. As we discussed in previous lecture about the characteristics of usability, there were 5 different components were there. Learnability, how easy the user can learn the system, how efficiently they can use the system. The third component which we have to talk about is the memorability, how much they can memorize, and the memorization between the expert and the novice user, we see a difference between the two. Novice user seems to be memorizing an item better than the other users. Now interface should be easy to remember, and when the interface is easy to remember, then memorization is not required at all. Generally in the interface design, when a designer is designing it, they have to ensure that the memory aid should be provided and the interface should be easy enough and should not be putting too much information so that which compromises the learning ability of the novice users and intermittent users. But how can we measure this memorability in the system? So, performing a typical test between the novice user and the casual user, what we see is that when there is something which novice user can remember and respond to it quickly in less span of time, this shows their easiness in memorizing the functions. These functions memorability also depends on the accuracy itself. So, more accurate they are, more they are memorizing it, and it is easy for the user to remember. Second measure is if the user is completing the task in less span of time. If the user is not capable to complete the task in the defined period of time, then also memorization seems to be compromised, which means that the user cannot remember the steps, and in that case the designer can put an emphasis, can simplify the system. Asking the user also to explain various commands such as what does start mean, what does close mean, what does control plus C means, what is control plus P means, and if the user can respond back correctly, this means that the interface has been designed easily and the memorization is there. So, the usability gets enhanced in this case when user responds and remembers the items easily. Memorability, so measuring memorability is easy. User do not have to remember the system, system will help the user to remember. So, user doesn't have to put an effort to remember the system functions, but the system itself is providing aid to the user. For example, control means the command key. So, control plus P, control plus C, control plus X, control plus A, control plus N. So, when we see all these control function is same, which is system is providing, what user has to put an effort to is remembering what does P stand for paste, N for new, X for cut, C for copy, A for all, and this is how the memorization works. But another component towards this thing is the error. How a design can be more useful, how a design can be more usable is minimal error should be there. If few errors is there, then the system becomes more and more robust, strong here, and as a result suppose the user to use it more frequently. Error is an action. What do we understand with error? So, it is an action that does not accomplish the desired goal. So, it can be seen as an action which stops the user to reach towards the desired goal. So, if we can minimize the error, the usability will be enhanced and promoted. The system error rate is how can we measure the system error rate when the system is failing? It can be measured number of times the action has been taken by the user to perform, and number of times he has failed to reach towards the desired goal can be measured in that way. Some errors are corrected by the users immediately. How can these errors are there? For instance, on many occasions when you are typing and then you make a typing errors, when you make a typing error you immediately correct that spelling mistake. Okay, grammar is having a spelling GRAMMAR rather than ER, and we correct this spelling mistake. Psychology, when we write then we make a spelling mistake, we correct it immediately. Such errors can be corrected. Many a time what happens, some errors cannot be corrected at all, and that actually compromises the usability of a system. Some errors are catastrophic, as I was telling you earlier, and because many a time the user cannot identify why the system is off. Many a time the system file get corrupted. Many a time we install new software with if we are taking a computer as an example. So many a time user install a new software. As a result, what happens? The system stops functioning. This we may have encountered many a time when we are installing many mobile applications on our phone for health related or for related to games. As a result, what happens at the back end, there is additional add-on files are being installed which interferes and interrupts the core file. As a result, mobile phone sometimes does not work, and then what the technician suggests that we do the factory setting, or else we format the system and we install the new system. This we have done on several occasions. Another thing is that effort should be there to minimize the error efficiency. More and more errors we can minimize it, better the system becomes. Now what you see on your screen here are different types of sinks are there, but the common problem with the sink is that, as you can see, the water is filled in the sink. And many a time we do not understand the mechanism because there is no clear signifier is there. No clear signifier means that we do not know what how shall we open this sink. The mechanism is very simple. It works with the pressure principle. You press it with the thumb and it opens it. It's open up, and then once it open up, then the water can go through the drains. But such mechanism not everybody is familiar with. There is no sign or signage is also there. So if you are not familiar with the system, then sometimes you end up in filling up the tank, and spilling of water is a common problem. The last factor in the case of usability is the satisfaction. If the user is satisfied, then the system seems to be highly usable. So subjective satisfaction should be highlighted, and how pleasant the system usage is, that is of a more concern. User should be having an entertaining, moving and enriching experiences when he or she is interacting with the system every time. Then it should be enriching the knowledge, it should be enriching the experience, it should be moving forward rather than taking them backward, and the system is complicated in nature. As I showed you the previous example here, if the user doesn't get stuck all the time using such type of sink and doesn't have an insight, doesn't have an experience how to use a system, then that is not going to induce pleasant feeling, but it may induce an unpleasant feeling. Scarce knowledge is limited between the attributes of the individual, how the individual computer system is there, and what is the general attitude of the user to handle a problem. The interface may change. Imagine a Windows user is switching to Macintosh user. So the attribute of the individual computer system Windows was very distinct from the Macintosh system. Now we do not have a universal design, but that is why the designers are also working day and night to come up with a universal design. Some such universal design example can be taken up as traffic signals. So the same traffic signals, international traffic signal which we are following in India, will be applicable in American or foreign countries, European nations also. The objective measures are required instead of subjective measures, because we are talking about the user satisfaction. Satisfaction can be can be subjective in nature, but when we are talking about one system, when we are talking about global system, then we have to talk about the objective measures rather than subjective measures. Physiological measures, on some occasions people have used it to investigate the user's stress level and comfort level. If any design which is complicated in nature, physiological measures can be used, such as unpleasant designs can increase the heart rate, can increase the skin conductance response, breathing pattern. However, the easy design can lower the heart rate, can lower the breathing pattern, and can lower even the skin conductance level. Subjective satisfaction can be measured using a short questionnaire, but the important concern here is also that a short questionnaire can be sufficient enough, can be effective to provide an insight in the discipline of usability. User shouldn't be asked for the new system but he should be always be asking for the how the existing system can be improvised and can be made better. In this regard, the user testing plays a major role, and usability testing is nothing but it's a process of involving the user to evaluate a system to ensure that it meets the usability criteria. If a coffee making machine is there, then the user will be involved to ensure if it is making a proper coffee, an authentic and tasty coffee or not. If the coffee machine is not making a proper coffee, doesn't have too much foam on the coffee, and then it is too watery, then and the coffee is not getting mixed and diluted properly, then it doesn't meet the usability criteria and it fails. If the coffee machine is more features, more than 100 features and 100 buttons are there, then it makes the system more and more complicated. More stages of action steps are required. It makes the system more and more complicated. So how we can ensure that the system is more complicated? Through usability testing. Usability testing can be seen as a systematic way where we observe the users in the natural environment, how they are collecting the information, how they are interacting with the system, and their specific way, their generic way altogether can be understood, and in which the product is easy or difficult for the users. Such understanding when is being done is can be investigated using a usability testing, which is a systematic way. Usability testing can be seen as a research tool which with its roots in the classical experimental methodology. We all have been doing a lot of experiments. Some of us are doing a case study method, some of us are doing a very experimental method, or systematic observation is there. What we do, all these type of experimental methodology are a research tool which gives us an insight how a user is interacting with the system and how well it is interacting with the system. So human centered approach or value sensitive design should be there. We most of the designers, most of the human computer interaction designs are human centric approaches required, but these days we have also considered that what is the value when the human is interacting. If the value is too high, too important, then the design should be more value sensitive design should be there. So when we are talking about such aspects, let us take an example how a user testing can be done. User testing can be done by filling up a questionnaire. User testing can be done using a qualitative method by framing some unstructured questions and then interacting and asking those unstructured questions from the users, and based on asking these unstructured questions, some themes and sub themes can be may emerge out, and using these themes and sub themes, designer or a researcher can come up with the structured questions on a quantitative method, and then deeper insight can be provided in this regard. Some characteristics are there in the usability testing. What are these characteristics? Dumas and Reddish in 1993 proposed 5 characteristics. First characteristic is that it is to improve the usability of a product. A product is there and the usability testing tries to improve the quality of the product, existing product. It also ensures that participants which we are using in the design usability testing are our real users. It does not matter these participants we have selected based on our from either from the college or either from the market or either from the old age house, but what does it mean? What these participants represent? They represent as a real users. How the real users, the real world are going to use the product. That is what they are representing. Participants have to do a real task, which means that whatever I am asking my user to do in the real world, the same task my participants have to do it, and then that is why we are calling our participants as a real users, because they are going to execute the real task. Experimenter has to observe and record what the participants do and say. So this is a systematic observation method is being adopted here, where we have to keep a close eye what our participants are doing, how well they are interacting with the system, how difficult it is for them to interact. Later on, once the experimenter has noted down all these information, they have to analyze the data set. They have to also diagnose the real problem, and also they have to recommend the changes to fix these problems. Moving forward, we have to see a model. Here the model which I am presenting to you is the PACT model. P stands for people, A stands for activity, what activity people is performing in relation to the context and technology. So, P stands for people, A stands for activity, C stands for context, and T for the technology. When a user has to meet a goal, when a user has to complete the task, then he or she is interacting with the physical system. The gulf of execution is there, gulf of evaluation is there. Now, this model is what you are seeing on your screen. We have discussed earlier when we were talking about the 7 stages of Nielsen. 7 action stages of Nielsen. We discussed about when a user has to reach towards a goal, there are 3 stages in the execution, and there are 3 stages in the evaluation. The execution stages are there, what action is required, what specific measures were required to execute the task, and when those actions have been performed, how well we are performing it, evaluating it to reach towards the goal. So, if we see on this screen the remote control on your right hand side, you can see that people is interacting with the technology, a person is interacting with the technology. Now, person can be an elderly, young adult, woman, man, child, and the technology is a remote control. All of them will be interacting differently. The activity is to change the TV channel, the activity could be to put a movie, to put a news, to put a sports channel. So, the context can vary from place to place also. Sometimes you are handling the remote control in your home, and sometimes you are handling the same remote control in your aunt's house or in your uncle's house. So, this kind of interaction leads towards the user experience, and user experience is also a wide discipline in the usability, and it is very important component in the human computer interaction. When a person is interacting with the system, what kind of experience they are coming up with. So, earlier we discussed about the UI, user interaction. Now, it is time to discuss about the user experience. User experience is extensively studied in the human computer interaction discipline, and lot of practitioners, researchers are investigating it. It is associated with the wide range of meanings, traditional usability to beauty, hedonic, affective, and experiential aspects are there, and of technology use. Primary characteristics of usability is the person's experience. What kind of experience I have when I am interacting with my laptop, when I am interacting with my mobile phone, when I am interacting with the ticket vending machine or ATM machine. Instead of productivity and learnability, how much I am learning in the ATM machine, how much productive I am, how many times I can withdraw the cash, how quick I can withdraw the cash, all those things are immaterial with respect to user experience. User experience is talking about what kind of experience I am having. Initial idea of user experience was programmatic, how the programs are being designed, but later on people realize that that is a very misconception is there. It is more related to affective feelings, ala effect, having more pleasure oriented. So, what you see here, usability, how well or how easy you use a design, and then another thing is the user experience, overall experience a person is having, emotional, affective feeling is there. How good the user experience is when such kind of platforms he or she is interacting with. Every one of us has ordered something on Swiggy, Zomato. So, every time when we interact with the system, there is a feedback interaction system is there. How are you going to rate the food? How are you going to rate the your person, the delivery guy, and how well you rate the application itself. So, when we talk about the user experience, it has been broadly classified and categorized into 3 major perspectives are there. First perspective is the user experience goes beyond the instrument. It has to talk about some aesthetic, it has to talk about some hidden features, it has to talk about some direct features. Then emotion and effects, how the feelings is there. The moment emotion and effect is there, then subjective experience comes here, positive pleasure feelings comes here. We also talk about the experience altogether, that is the dynamic experience is there when we are watching a movie, or versus when we are reading a comic book or a magazine. The experiences are a little different between the two. The complex, the unique designs are there. These days everything is moving in towards the augmented reality, virtual reality. There people pay a lot of attention. So that is why graphic user interface or graphic design in this regard plays a major role. The color, that is why we change the wallpaper of our laptop, the wallpaper of our mobile phone, some graphics we added, and these features are being integrated because that adds experience towards the user. What we see here, if you see on your screen, beyond the instrument, the beauty is an important aspects in the technology, and that is why Macintosh play a lot of effort towards the beauty and aesthetic over the other companies, computer aided companies, and it is an important part. Sometimes beauty satisfies the general human need, intrinsic values, hidden values are there, which is very difficult to understand. Elderly person who is having a lot of money versus person who is having limited money, person who is too much into the computer system, interacting day and night, that person, the system becomes not only a system but it goes beyond the instrument, and that is why these features, these characteristics are important. Non instrumental needs should be surprise, diversion, intimacy is there also, like some of these systems are coming with a lot of different materials, lot of different colors are there, and more such features and characteristics are there. You have to pay more because recently people have understood that the user experience, if it is better, then the sale and the performance and efficiency will be better, and people don't mind in paying extra money in this regard, and that is why human cognition, when we talk about in cognitive ergonomics, when we were talking about human cognition, similar aspects are playing role, user experience, because human beings are interacting with the system. So what kind of components they require. Some personal growth, how these systems can help you in personal growth, increase in knowledge and skills are there. Self expression, interaction with the system itself, how you can maintain, can it be being a part of the memories, a laptop gifted to you by your father or by your mother, or for the first time you got a laptop and you are moving to your college, to the college, then such system that goes beyond the instrument. It is no more as a simple laptop, but it has a lot of emotional and feelings and effects attached to it. Multidimensional model is also there, which talks about the needs and the values of the system itself. A person who is working day and night with the system, if you can see there are two such systems are there. One is having a functionality, functional usability is there. Functional, you have to steam a rice, you have to bake a rice, and the steams are important for it. On the other hand, the aesthetic usability is there. Another is also producing a steam, but between the two you can see the aesthetics are different, and also the functions are little different, but both of them are producing the steam in this regard. When we talk about the emotion effect, how computers can sense, many can computer sense our feeling, can we get adapted to it, and can they get adapted to us? That kind of thing is very much important, and that is why in previous lecture also I talked about the affective computing. These days people are designing special AIs which can detect your emotion. So today when you tell Siri or Alexa that you are sad, play some sad song, then Alexa can understand. They work on an artificial intelligence machine learning algorithm which they can detect your emotion and play a song as per your need. So system can also aid irritated users. Sometimes the users are irritated by the functionality, creepism, difficulty, complex functions. So the system can provide some aid to the user by music, by aesthetic, by changing wallpaper, or some additional software where user can feel a little bit more released, relaxed and calm. So system can manage the frustration and prevent the other negative emotions. A strong feeling of loneliness, sadness, frustrations can be avoided also. These systems can be used in order not only to work, but also can be used for the pleasure moment, like watching a movie or playing a music. To prevent frustration and dissatisfaction is a core cognitively driven perspective on HCI, and that is why the user experience is an important element in the cognitive ergonomics, because the moment person is in distress, the moment person is frustrated or dissatisfied, it starts affecting the cognitive abilities, perception, attention, memory, language. As a result, person seems to be performing less. Gust bowl is an easy example. At the door, generally we place a bowl where we put our changes of coins, key, important element, and that plays an important communication tool. Whenever anybody is leaving the house, they just grab the key from the gust bowl and goes. Whosoever is going to take the car, just take the car from the gust bowl, and when they come back, return, then they put the key in the same place. Similarly, the shoe rack is also a communication tool where people are just communicating and taking and exchanging sleepers. This connection is between the children and parents. There are many such examples out there. Motivational user interface is there, talking about the emotion and effect. Some prefer exciting phone calls, high psychological arousal is there, while others are preferring the calming phone. So similarly, the ringtones are also an example for such thing. The last component in this regard is the experiential component. User experience emphasizes two aspects technology use: its situated and temporality. Temporarily, it is being used for a short period of time, and where it is situated. And experience user experience is a unique combination of the product and internal state. Internal state of the user, that can be that is mood, expectation, active goal. Sometimes we are in a very happy mood, something good has happened to it, and when with this happy mood, with this internal state, when we are interacting with the system, then it adds positive experience. However, when we are in bad mood and when we are interacting with the system, if the system functions are complicated in nature, it leads towards the unpleasant feeling. As a result, we store this unpleasant feeling altogether. So experience outcome also impacts the subjective well-being. When this experience is positive in nature, subjective well-being seems to be very positive. However, when this interaction seems to be negative and unpleasant in nature, then subjective well-being decreases. And that is why I think cognitive ergonomics plays an important role here, because we can understand if a person is in distress, then he or she will be paying less attention to perceptual information, doing a meaningful interpretation towards it. As a result, if such things is not happening, then there is a change in the design is required to meet the end user need. Experience is also constant stream of self talk, or more and more we do a self introspection, we talk about it, we interact with the system, and such kind of experience, such kind of introspection or self talk actually leads towards the positive or negative experience altogether. Earlier view on the experience was it is complex and unique in nature, it cannot be measured, it cannot be analyzed, but now we understand that it can be measured and analyzed easily. Design of the experience has to be positive experience in this regard. A lot of tools are there, softwares are there, funware or kansai in this regard. So when we talk about these characteristics of the user experience, as we talk about these three components beyond the instrument, emotion and effect, and experiential in nature, the last part brings us to the characteristic of user experience. User experience is more than instrumental need basically, and it is talking about it, that we do not have to see user experience based only on the instrument and interaction of the instrument. Now instrument can be seen as a computer system here, but it could be a nurse, secondary caregiver with a biomedical device also. Instrument can be anything. User experience about user's internal state also, whatever internal state user is having, and what the motivation, mood, expectation, preconceived notions, all these things plays an major role in the user experience. User experience is about the characteristic of the design system. If the system is complex in nature, if it is purpose oriented, if it is goal oriented, usability, functionality, then it also reflects upon the system itself. User experience is dependent on the context of the environment in which the interaction is occurring. So, it can be organizational, workplace setting, home, professional setting, personal setting. Different contexts may have different, may provide different user experiences. One context may provide unpleasant feeling, another context with the user system, same user system, can provide a pleasant feeling also. User experience consider attributes, these three major attributes. The beyond instrument focuses on experiential and emotional aspects. User experiences also is putting an understanding toward the quality of the experiences rather than the usability problem. So, what is the experience quality rather than how useful the product it is, that user experience is talking about. How useful this design will be to solve a problem. User experience is not talking about its usage, but user experience is talking about how what would be the quality of the user experience, how well the user experience is experiencing, what is the nature of experience user is having when he or she is interacting with the system. To conclude this lecture here, we understood the usability characteristics. We talked about the memorability, error, satisfaction. We also talked about the usability testing, why it is important and how usability testing can be performed and tested. We also understood about the usability testing characteristics here. PACT also we talked about people, activities, context, technology, how these four components are integrating, and this PACT model is actually giving us an insight. Similar to PACT model, there are many other models also, but PACT model seems to be very simpler model in the discipline of user experience and user interaction system, where one can easily understand how the people are interacting with the technology and what kind of context, different contexts can also result in different outcome. User experience and its perspective, we talked about the three different perspectives in user experience, beyond the instrument, experiential, and also the emotional and affect. And how these different characteristics in user experience are important. The whole idea with the user experience, user interaction is to understand the human computer interaction better, how well the user can be used. And as we learned in previous lecture that different types of people are there, different ranges of stakeholders are there, different based on different ranges of stakeholders, different people, we can create different personas. These different type of personas can have different types of user experiences also, based on such understanding we can understand the product very well. Based on this we can understand the mental model of the user itself. As a result, the designer can design an effective system which can not only help in the effective performance, efficiency and satisfaction, but also enhance the safety regulations. In the next class we are going to talk about the human error theory, followed by the cognitive safety in this lecture series of cognitive ergonomics. With this I will rest the case here. Thank you all. See you in next class.